Hello, everybody. That's pretty loud. Whoa. To quote my husband at Leslie and Matt's wedding, ground controlled Major Tom. That's how he started it. Whoa, that is a cleansing speech. Okay, first, my family and I all want to thank you for coming here today to celebrate Yogi. We'll have a few people speak who have planned a tribute, and then this is a wireless mic, so I'm sure some other people might have a story to share, and we'd love that. Wow. 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 I think Yogi's here. It's absolutely overwhelming to feel all the love for Roderick Joel Hebron, Yogi. He was truly a legend. I'd like to share some of my memories because I'm so grateful for every minute we spent together. To quote James Joyce, they lived and laughed and loved and left, and the world will never be the same. I'm eternally grateful for the moment that fate placed us in the same place at the same time. In November of '75, I walked into the Last Live Bar at Keystone and laid eyes on the love of my life for the first time. I've heard some other people that had the same story. That was kind of a sexy place. I'll never forget telling my girlfriends, Lisa and Cindy, to back off, ladies. He's mine. From that first encounter, I felt like we just clicked. It was so exciting to me to be with Yogi. We had so many great adventures. That spring, we took a first trip to California and Baja in Lumpy's '61 Toyota Land Cruiser. We all had $150 in our pocket. That seriously underfunded trip taught me that I wanted to be with this guy. I actually said no. I'm too young, but hang around. Boy, am I glad he did. 6 years and many wonderful adventures later, on July 10th in 1982, Yogi and I celebrated our wedding right here in this place that Yogi built with his buddies. This has continued to be a gathering place. Feels so goddamn right to be right here, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm not qualified to really tell you about his earlier life from personal experience, but I know that the man I met in 1975 was so amazing because of his life. Better known as Roddy as a child and Yogi to the rest of us. When asked why his nickname was Yogi, he would chuckle, you know that, and say he liked to steal picnic baskets. He was famous for leaving a note in the refrigerator where the food had been. Yogi was here. His nickname was not a coincidence. Like a yogi, he had an internal serenity that drove him to succeed, to persevere against challenges, to never complain, to just do it. He often said that he was inspired while at Oregon State by Bill Bowerman, track and field coach at Oregon, and his student Phil Knight, who started Nike in '64. Yogi was literally on the cutting edge with all the shit that changed. Skiing went from old-fashioned long thongs to an iteration of what it is now. I mean, everything started right then. Those guys were on the edge. Already a 6-year veteran of the Canadian national team and a 2-time Olympian, by the time he graduated with honors in business and clothing and textiles at Oregon State, he had a full ride. He had an offer for a full ride to Harvard Business School. A free spirit by heart, and already a hell of a great ski racer, he drove himself on instead to continue skiing for the sport of it. Driven by his curiosity and pursuit in the innovation of equipment, and always for the joy of it. Plus, he used to go to business school wearing shorts and barefoot. So Harvard just didn't seem like a fit. His skiing career continued through the 60s as a team leader in the Olympics and the World Cup, the Canadian U.S. Championships, where he formed lifelong bonds with mentors and colleagues. He was honored to be inducted into the 2022 into the Canadian Hall of Fame, Ski Hall of Fame. His great friends are here, and they can fill in the details from their personal experience. I was in middle school. Coach Dave Jacobs, team brothers, Peter Duncan, Scott Henderson, Bertie Irwin, and team manager Peter Webster. U.S. team friends Moose Barrows, Billy Kidd, and his best friend for 50 years, Peter Bryant. So in a group, if you said, "Hey Peter," you'd be right about it 50% of the time. Others are dearly departed but never forgotten. And I just want to shout out some of those names because a lot of you really know those guys and some of you don't. So my apologies. Jerry Rinaldi, Rip McManus, who our son Rip is named after, Spider Savage, Jimmy Huga, Paul Carson, Gary Battistella, Steve Lindsay, his dad, Big Rod, my mom, Wanda, and brother Mike, Aunt Betty, and Uncle Bob. These are all people he truly loved. Yogi continued ski racing into the 70s, where World Pro Skiing debuted the head-to-head slalom format. Bob Beatty, who's also dearly departed, showcased ski racing as a spectator event in person and for TV. Friends from pro skiing are here today and in spirit too. Damian Lee, the filmmaker of the famous Copper Mountain, filmed in 1983, starring Jim Carrey, his first movie, Damian's first movie too, and Yogi Hebadaddy. It wasn't his first movie. I'm so happy that Damian is here to share some memories with you. Yogi always told me that he made a stand and chose to stay right here in Summit County. This is where he built a life with me and our family and with so many of you. He was truly a friend to those who were lucky enough to know him, as evidenced by this great gathering of friends. With his great friends, he built our beautiful log home, basically him and Gary Ritchie and Gordy. He ran the Last Lift Bar at Keystone, Tusos at Copper Mountain. Shout out if you ever been in any of these places. Started the Virgin Islands ski rental, the Fun Hog Ranch, the Virgin Islands Lounge,
Sadly.
High Country Travel, and a tourist catamaran in St. Thomas, Coconut Cruises, and Smitty's here too. To be an entrepreneur is to be a local in Summit County, as we all know. There ain't no jobs here that don't start with an R. Real estate, recreation, restaurant. I could know some more, but I can't think of them right now. Anyway, anything starts with an R, there are no other jobs.
Romance.
Romance.
That's a job.
We've raised our two beautiful children here, Leslie and Rip. They led a charmed life because of Yogi. He always said, toys are included. And they got to enjoy that truth. We traveled as the seasons changed to tropical destinations and to his Canadian homeland. I can't remember any year that we didn't take amazing trips. Just like our first trip to Baja, our lives were about experiences. And I vow to take a cue to keep that up. Sorry, kids, I might spend some of your inheritance. Yogi had a positive attitude about life that never faded. He fought like a bear to continue to live. His strength allowed him to continue influencing lives for 8 years after a terrible diagnosis. He saw his two children married, Leslie to Matt, and Rip to Genevieve. helped them buy beautiful homes, and welcomed his first grandchild, Miles. Hi, Miles. He was incredibly smart and had an amazing ability to recall the most specific details about people and events. He was a fantastic storyteller, as you all know. The interesting thing is that his stories weren't stories, they were recollections, they were real. One of the amazing fraternities that he was a brother in are the original Fun Hogs, friends and founding members of the Fun Hogs who pursued the essence of sport for the joy of it. In 1968, during the time of the Summer of Love in San Francisco, were Yvonne Chouinard of Patagonia, Doug Tompkins of the North Face, Dick Dorworth, the famous filmmaker and author. Climbers, surfers, skiers, sailors, and adventurers all pursued sport for the spirit of it. To quote Yvonne Chouinard, the whole purpose of an adventure is to gain some spiritual or emotional insight. When you compromise the process, you compromise the gain. To quote Dick Dorworth, the best each of us can do is to live each moment mindfully with the right intention, the right thought, and the right action, all with love and compassion and a smile. Is she about done?
No.
To quote Roddy Hebron, ski racing really is a tough sport. Weather, injuries, travel, we certainly didn't make any money from it. It was really for the love of the sport. You learn about hard work, persistence, and the friendships on the team. We all raced to win, but we supported each other. The fraternity pin for the original Fun Hogs was inspired by the Rossignol cock featuring the colors of the French flag, blue, blanc, rouge, and a pair of skis behind. The image of a pig replaced the rooster and became the symbol of the Fun Hog spirit. I have a surprise. We have a pin for all of you. Isn't that cool? It's his gift as an influence to influence your spirits. He would have wanted you to have a lot of fun. When asked for a favorite memory, he shared, I seemed to really ski well at home in Canada. I guess I felt comfortable. I remember at the end of those races, you got all your buddies there and we'd get our jackets. I'd get our jackets on and ski down towards the award ceremony. The sun would be setting with the alpenglow. It was pure joy. The moment his spirit passed from his body, I could feel that he was there, skiing in the alpenglow, free from pain, breathing deeply, and experiencing that joy. Yogi, we hold you dear. Hold you dear.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. This is seriously unreal, and there's people from every stage of Yogi's life here, and our lives, and Kim's life, and we just could not be more honored that you're here. The reason obviously sucks. You know, Yogi was the best among us. They don't make people like Yogi at all, and especially not anymore. He was the most limitless thinker and just so himself. He never once stopped to think, do I look weird, or am I talking weird, or he had none of the awkwardness that most humans have, and I think there's just something in him that was really, really special. So thank you for being here. It makes sense that, this turnout is incredible. From Canada to California, like Kim was just talking about, to Virgin Islands, to Husong's Cantina, Yogi just collected people, and he was kind of like a planet, He would just collect people in his wake, and they would stay around for a lifetime. And I always used to joke with everybody, all my friends and everything, that he had an entire life before he had us as kids, and he would joke, I never even wanted kids. That was your mom. She just, I didn't know until she was pregnant. Then it was too late. You're like, wow, thanks, Dad. That's great. And then it was evidenced further by his garage that he built for himself. That was his little escape. That was totally separate from the house. So, but now that I have a 7-month-old, I totally get it. So, shout out to all the parents out there. But growing up, he taught us many things. Obviously, he taught us how to ski. Back in the day when you had the pink leash, that you could, attach onto yourself or just between your legs. And we got to go on trips every single year. Right when mud season would hit and the ski shop was quiet, we'd go on these incredible adventures as a family, even when these guys, we didn't even know, but they didn't have any money. And so we were just like, yeah, we're going to go on vacation again. Like, we're just so lucky, this is life. But he truly gave us such a beautiful life and such a beautiful childhood. And instead of, the lengthy life lessons or the TV dad moment where he'd say, okay, come here, kid, let me tell you something about life. It was really more just like, don't worry so much, And so I'm going to give you a little bit of 5 lessons from Yogi that I took from my time as his daughter and as his friend. Number 1, take the trip. You'll never remember why you didn't do something. Even if you don't have any money or you don't, necessarily have the reason not to go. Just take the trip because you'll never remember why you didn't. And there's always something that you'll learn and experience from it. Ski good or eat wood. That's a good one. And unfortunately this spring I did not heed that advice and you pay for that. I'm going to be like the old bad knee lady, so ski good or eat wood. Don't worry, be happy. Just take a deep breath, stay in the moment, look at the people around you, and just have fun. Number 4, be yourself and don't put limits on yourself. I think this is the most important one. I mean, of anyone I've ever met in my life, Yogi just never put any limitation on his own thinking. He owned businesses in the Virgin Islands and 5 businesses up here. He had a beautiful family. He competed in 2 Olympics. He just never even stopped to say, oh, I probably can't do that, So believe in yourself and don't put limits on yourself. And then be nice to people is the last one. So I don't know anyone that didn't like Yogi. He didn't have a bad relationship with anyone. The only time I ever heard him raise his voice was during an exciting Broncos game, or if we had turned off said Broncos game, or anything to do with the television. So, and then, although he's no longer able to tell his legendary stories and life recollections, each one of you here has a unique memory of Yogi that maybe we haven't even heard. We've got a little table set up right inside near the guest book, and if you have time or you have something that you want to share with the family, we would love to hear your recollections and your memories, and then we're going to put them into a really nice book. Because with those stories and with those memories, we can really keep Yogi alive. That's what he is, and he's not physically here anymore, but he's here. So we miss you, Dad, dearly, and he loved all you, and we love all you too. So thank you for being here.
She used to call me her little brother, but that doesn't work anymore. I'm just going to say a few things about Yogi. He made me feel a lot of things throughout my life, and I don't want to eat the mic. He made me always feel safe, useful, needed, loved. He never made me feel like he was disappointed in me or angry at me for any reason. I always had full support from him in whatever I chose to do. He taught me how to be a good husband. He taught me how to be a good friend. He taught me how to fail without giving up. And he taught me to let go of unnecessary emotions. And he did all of this by example. An example I think all of us are going to follow forever. We are incredibly lucky to have him influence our lives. We owe it to him to live life to the fullest. No regrets, no preconceptions, no fear, no complaints. And that'll drive us. We can go forward. It's these things that bind him to all of us. It's the stories that we know, it's the memories we have, it's the love we share with each other, and, you know, it's just family. Everyone here is family. When I was a kid, my friends and I would always play in the backyard. Yogi couldn't resist hiding around the corner of the house and growling like a bear. It was very scary, but it was also wonderful. Those are good memories. And those memories are the libraries of our lives. Our stories are written down in our minds. Our experiences living as titles neatly placed on shelves. The collective memories of this group of people right here could fill up an entire building. So, as Leslie said, please go share your memories. Go write them down. We want to hear them. Let us never forget the importance of the little things he taught. Be strong, be happy, don't complain about things you can't change, and most of all, remember to have fun. To Yogi.
Good afternoon. I met Yogi in about 1971. He had joined the Olin Pro Team and wanted to make racing suits for them. I had a small sewing operation in upstate New York.
Mike, closer.
Oops. I had a small sewing operation in upstate New York. And so Yogi, Dave Jacobs' suggestion, came out and brought one of his racing suits so we could make up suits for the Olin team. We'd never met before, but we got cutting up the suit to make patterns, cut the fabrics, got everything ready. And the girls started sewing. Yogi saw that we had a bunch of felt fabric from our other business. He said, let's make some hats. And he drew some pictures. One was a pointed hat with moons and stars, like a wizard. The other was a top hat with planets on it. He said, that'll be Mr. Magic and Mr. Natural. So we put the hats together and wore them around town for a few days. When I say town, 300 people. And it was a hit of the town. But it was kind of a bonding thing for Yogi and me. But what was interesting is it sort of taught me the 3 R's, not read, write, and arithmetic, but the philosophy that I think Yogi and I shared about life as that friendship began. The first R was Robert Service. He taught us there were strange things done in the midnight sun. The second R, Robert Frost, who showed us a road not taken. The third R was Robert Crumb, who was the inspiration for the two goofy hats. And from that day on, that week on, a 50-year friendship grew year after year. I miss him so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for being here. I'm really impressed. Well, I'm not surprised. Can you? Oh, that's the middle. That's very, very shy and introverted too. But when you give me a microphone, I can't shut up. Yogi and I met 1960, November 1960, the 21st, and we flew to Europe with the ski team. Excuse me. Yogi made a huge difference in my life. He wasn't me. And I wasn't him. Sorry, Jake. Sorry. It's a big day.
It's okay, Peter. We love you.
Okay. I have a story on Yogi.
Breathe, 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 breathe.
I remember when I first made the ski team in 1960. I was 16. Yogi was like me, I guess. And they would pair us together, ski team. So they said the old guys together and the young guys together. And there were two Quebecers, myself and Jean-Guy. Name him Jean-Guy Brunet. talented, unbelievably talented. So they put the two French guys together, and Yogi, I think, with Vern Anderson. And I'd never had a roommate. I'm his only child. So he became a big brother. But he was rooming in another room. And Yogi, so I had a hard time with Yogi. He's smart, he's good looking, he was tall. Pissed me off.
Here, here.
And Yogi was an excellent skier. I saw him last week. And then after 3 weeks, I had a hard time getting along with Yogi. We get along very well. We're old friends. And so I went to the oldest member, Vern Anderson, who was on the ski team and was a partner with Yogi at the Olympics in Squaw Valley. And I said to Vern, I'm having a hard time with my partner. He says, you should be with Yogi. He said, he's about your age and you'll get along well with him. I thought, sure, fine. So once we left where we were, we went to the next village, and the coach said, Pete, it was an Austrian guy. So Peter, you're going now with Yogi. That was his English. He had 4 words. He was our coach. He was a slalom specialist, and I was racing downhill. So that didn't work very well. So Yogi and I roomed together for 3 weeks, 3 different hotels, 3 different countries, 3 different races. And because I'm a single child, lived in a hotel, my parents ran a hotel, I was organized. My clothes was always well wrapped and hung. I put my ski boots where they should be. My skis where they should be. And I was organized. My toothpaste was here. And I didn't have a razor then. I was too goddamn young. And so Yogi, when he got into his room, he had a duffel bag. Everything was in the duffel bag. His ski boots, his bindings, his screwdrivers, his wax, his shorts, his t-shirts, his pants, his shoes, everything. And when he came into a new room, he'd take the thing, zipper up, on the floor, all over the place. So by 2 days, he had a piece of binding there, marker binding over here, and screws over there. And he never lost anything. I was organized, and I always forget something. The best pants, often. And so one day I came back. One night I get up to go to the bathroom. I step on the head, the toe of the binding, the marker bindings. Remember those, a little triangle? Yeah. Well, I weighed 110 pounds, so it didn't really hurt me. But I was so pissed off. When I got up to sleep the next morning, I said, Yogi, let's make a deal. The only deal we ever made in 12 years. And I didn't want to argue with Yogi because he was big as strong as a bull. And I was just a French Canadian. Anyways, I said, Yogi, let's start. Put your stuff anywhere else but the fucking floor. He said, oh yeah? Well, it makes more sense, you know. I could see the goddamn bindings and I'm walking, even in the dark. So sure as hell, I go to breakfast in the hotel. I came back, nothing on the floor. Floor's clean. It was everything. Socks hanging from lights, shorts hanging from the refrigerator. Shit, there was things everywhere. Screws on tables, but nothing on the floor. We went together, we lived together we shared a room together, and then we started skiing in the summer. So we see each other in the summer, we see each other in the winter, all the time. And we never, ever, during these 11 years together, same Olympics, same World Championships, same World Cups, same friends. We didn't have girlfriends then, so I won't have to mention them. And they were nice though.
Enough said.
And because I'm shy and introverted, I was let Yogi have. Is that okay with you? Anyways, when the Olympics were held in Salt Lake City a few years ago, did you know them all? Did he have a list? Because I want to see that list. And so the Olympics, I hosted the Olympics with CBC because my English is so good, I guess. And I called Yogi and I said, Yogi, listen, Salt Lake City is not very far from where you're at. Just drive down and spend some time with me. Because if you have the microphone and TV, the city loves you because you have a microphone. It's a wonderful city, outstanding. The restaurants are good and traffic's not a problem and skiing's outstanding. And so they treat you really well. And you have passes to go everywhere and you have a car parked out there. You can go to skating events, jumping events, whatever. So I said, Yogi, stay with me. I'm sure I'm going to have a big room and we can watch it together. And so sure as hell, he's got calling back. He says, well, I don't think so. I'm busy season, the stores are going and the family's going, blah, 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 blah. And he says, no, I don't think so. So I call Kim. I said, Kim, try to convince him to come. We're going to have a wonderful time. We'll be together and we'll have whatever. So Kim speaks to Yogi, and a little while later, I call back Kim. She said, he's going to go. I said, great. So I called Yogi. I don't know. See. Yogi had a lot of words. Yeah, yes, okay. Yeah, came back. Last, went well yesterday. Yeah, how was your run? Good. Oh, you're leading right now. Oh, okay. And me, I never stop yakking. So finally, long story short, he says, I'll go. So check in. We always get there 2 weeks in advance and we do our homework. Read our notes and test the microphones and go to the sites where we're going to work on the downhill, the slalom, the giant slalom, women, men. And so there's a lot of work for us. 12 events now, they have to combine and all of that, which is fun. So the day before he came, the day before the men's downhill, start of the Olympics, that's the major event in Winter Olympics, he shows up. He says, I'll be there around the afternoon. So I tell the porter, I said, I have a good friend's coming in, he's going to stay with me in my suite. And you'll have a car, give him the keys. And so we work, we come back middle afternoon, and the guy says, your partner's here. He says, you may have left for a while, but he's here. He took his suitcase. So I told my partner, my announcer, the color man, I said, I want you to see something. I've been talking about Yogi for years, and he did Olympics with me. So we knew each other very well. And the guy had talked about it, Ron Hebron. He's going to stay with me tonight. Stay with me for a few nights. And I'd like to just get an impression of him. He said, what the hell? I said, no, just I'll open the door and you look. So I opened the door, nothing on the floor. But there was a sock on a lampshade. There was a pair of clean underwear on a light, but nothing on the floor. That was 50 years later. And Yogi, good human being. And I miss him already. Sorry. Thank you very much.
He's a beautiful man and a wonderful spirit and a great Canadian. And
Thanks. I was Yogi's coach on the national team, Nelson, BC, in 1964. Oh, in 1964 in Nelson. And the whole team arrived there. It was the first national ski team that Canada ever had. And 15 men and 10 women arrived in Nelson, British Columbia to go to school. The whole idea was to be able to ski race and go to school at the same time. So anyway, we arrived there in 64 in the summer. Yogi, the men arrived first. Yogi hadn't arrived yet because he was at Oregon. And so there was some anticipation about him because he came from a big American ski school, university, and there was an aura about him. He's kind of a bigger than life character. He's a big guy, and I'd never seen him ski. And that summer we had a slalom camp on the glacier outside of Nelson, and we set up a slalom course. And Yogi came down. The first time I saw him ski slalom, just like shot out of a cannon. Full blast, blonde hair flying, straight at the gates. And matter of fact, he was going so fast at the gates that he developed this technique where to hold the speed, his line around the pole, he'd wait his uphill ski, and his downhill ski would slide down below, and he'd bring the downhill ski up and give him a higher line into the next turn. it was very unique. And matter of fact, Ski Magazine wrote a story on that. It was called the high impulse, the hit turn, high impulse turn. And Yogi developed that.
Wow.
He was, yeah.
Another thing for the list.
He was,
They're
you know,
back to it
he'd
now.
be so fast in slalom that sometimes he'd lose his pole. And when you lose your ski pole, it takes a gate or two to get it back and you lose time. So Yogi, he had this idea where the ski pole straps were attached to the top of the pole. So you cut the straps, you attached one at the top of the grip and one at the bottom of the grip. So when you put your hand through it, your hand could let go of the pole, but the pole wouldn't leave your hand. It was brilliant. And that was Yogi. A couple of other ski team members are here. Peter Duncan, Scott Henderson were top members of the team with Yogi. And Bertie Irwin. But the three of them reached world-class level in different ways. Peter Duncan was a virtuoso. I think he was born in the slalom course. I think he was. You were. I remember you about 9 years old. And Scott Henderson was a step-by-step, totally focused racer. Yogi was full blast. And the three of them reached world-class level, each in their own way, which is pretty amazing to see as a coach. So in 1966, the World Championships were going to be in Portillo, Chile. And that winter, I got a letter from Bob Lang, who wanted the racers to test his ski boot and wanted to know if the Canadian team, any members would want to test his first plastic boot. These are the very first plastic boots. So I said, okay. So we sent out some foot measuring forms, and Yogi and some of the other team members tried the boots that Lang sent. They were the Lang standard boot with a hinge. They were soft. They really were not very good boots. So Yogi, these were the comfortable ones. These are the ones that didn't hurt. They weren't made yet. So anyway, we had a meeting, and Yogi and the team members made a list of the improvements that Lang needed to make for the boots. So I sent them to Bob, and really never heard from him again. So in 66, in June, before the World Championships, there was a big race in Mount Hood. I think it was a silver belt. And the U.S. team was there, Billy Kidd, Jimmy Huga, off their silver and bronze medals from Innsbruck.
And Billy's here.
And Billy's here.
And
Moose is
here.
And so we check out the hotel in Mount Hood, and I get a call from Bob Lang. He says, Jake, I want to show you some boots. So we met, and he had 3 pair of boots with a Canadian flag on the back of them. They were incredible race boots, just amazing race boots. So in that slalom race, I think Yogi and Peter Duncan and I think Bob Swan were the first ones to wear those boots. So the slalom race, you know, the big guns, the Americans are there, and the Canadian guys, I think Peter might have won that slalom.
Billy's here, yes, sir.
Or I think he would have. I mean, beating the U.S. Olympians. So this is on Lang boots. This was huge. So we go to Chile, Portillo, and between June and August, the World Championships, Lang made competition boots for the whole Canadian ski team. And this is the first ski team, international racers, to wear Lang boots. So we all go down to Portillo, and the last race is the men's slalom. And the French dominated the events. Jean-Claude Keely was winning everything. And so we're at the slalom, and in the first run, Keely was first, Guy Perial was second, Yogi was third after the first run. And fourth was an Italian, Carlo Sanona, who was a second and a half slower than Yogi. And so we're at the starting gate. The the slalom hill is a very, very steep hill, sort of evening out at the bottom, flattening out toward the bottom. The top is very steep, and there was about 5 open gates on this steep. So in those days, they didn't reverse the order. So the fastest time went first, second, third, and fourth, so on. Now they reversed them, but that time they didn't. So in the start, Keeley takes off, goes out and about the third gate, skis off the course. Peria goes down, skis off the course on the steep. Yogi's in the start. He's the second half faster than the Italian. So I'm there beside him and I said, Yogi, make 4 good turns and you've got this. Yogi turns to me and he says, Jake, get off my back. I'm going for gold. And he skied off the course. I don't think many people know that story, but Yogi would have been the first Canadian man ever to win a world championship or an Olympic medal. But that was Yogi. He lived life on his own terms, and he was great. I mean, we all miss him. And just thought I'd tell that story.
Wow, what a crowd. All here for Yogi. Like I'm drinking? I'm sober today. Anyway, this is a complete surprise to me. And we're all here for Yogi. And as you all know, Yogi was an outstanding citizen. And my job was to manage the Canadian ski team in the early days, thanks to Jake. Where's Jake? There he is. And I had some very difficult people on the team, like Peter Duncan. But one of the easiest ones was Yogi, because if you heard his values of life, and his values of life translated into the national team and spread nicely among the national team. And he's been a friend for years and years and years. I don't know whether I lose track after we pass 45 and 50. And I was really, really pleased to see him go in the Canadian Ski Hall of Fame, because I'm involved with that group, sitting on the board. And I'm going to get all emotional too, so I better say thank you all for coming. Appreciate it very much. Thank you to Yogi for being such a great guy, and just God bless.
That was my first movie, but it was also Jim Carrey's first movie. I paid him $7,500 for that movie. He was living in his car before then, and I signed him to a 2-picture deal, $7,500 each. I've never collected on the second picture. I tried 2 years ago. He wouldn't take my call, so that was the end of that. So Yogi, of course, I mean, there's many accolades we could go on forever about what a conscious human being he was, and I was always so amazed how he became so conscious. It was perplexing to me. Other people meditate endlessly, study this, study that, take courses to be awake, to be mindful. So I'd said to Yogi, how did you get there? How did you get there? And he'd say something like, let's take a walk. That was the end of that. Or let's take a run. That was the end of that. So I got the message. As you said, Rip, just practice being here now. Just practice being here now. But the other thing that Yogi was good at, he was very, very good at predicting the future. Very few people knew that. It was very interesting. So one day we were at a race, I think it was in 1972 or 3, and he said to me, I think you're going to be a playwright. So I became a screenplay writer, and I wondered if I did that because Yogi said that. So maybe he's to blame for everything. So, no. And the other thing, a longer running thing, was the time Kim and Yogi were my best man and bridegroom at my first wedding. And not that I've had a lot, but this was one. There was a lot of drugs involved in this particular wedding, because this woman I was marrying was really wild, really wild. I met her the night she escaped from jail, and Kim knows that. Kim knows that. This is not an exact. She escaped from jail, and I saw this woman from the back on the street. She was very notable. She was very notable. Yeah, and I ran up and introduced myself. And she said, get lost, but I was persistent anyway. So we were in Aspen, and she decided she wanted to get married. She said, if you don't marry me while we're here, I'm going to burn down this chalet. And I believed her totally. I believed her totally. So I went to Yogi and said, Yogi, look, this woman is obviously half mad. A lot of energy, very bright, but half mad. What do you think? He says, well, stick around, it might get interesting. So I stuck around. The marriage didn't last too long, but we had 2 great kids, and she was Native, so the kids became Native and got their cards. And it was interesting because one of the TV series I'm working on is very Native-centric. So the kids, unlike their mother, actually got Native status, and they've become a huge benefactor in terms of packaging this television series, which is called Four Kings, because you have to involve the Native people. And so I employed all these kids I had with her. So it worked out okay. So Yogi was right. Stick around. So that's the message I got from Yogi. Stick around. Don't get down about it. It's going to get interesting. And he was just a great mentor to so many of us. And we're all so indebted. And one of the things I was talking to Kim about yesterday, she's showing me these pins about fun hogs. And I'm talking to Kim, I'm looking at this and thinking, God, this would make a great film. The Fun Hogs. Yes. What a great film, and what a great legacy to Yogi to do this in either a feature film or a TV series. It might be a series because there's so much room and so much personalities, and all these ski personalities. And I think this was a time where you didn't have to be politically correct to be a great athlete. And that's not the way anymore. You know, everything's so contained and subdued. There were huge personalities, huge. And I think it would just be a great series. And this notebook that you're leaving today, it could be a very valuable tool to us in putting a series or a film together. So be generous in your words. Be generous in your expressions, because one of the things I'd like to see, this is a great moment, but lately in terms of doing films and movies, I realize that's not a good word anymore. There's moments and there's movements. This is a moment, but I'd like to see it turn into a movement. And the Fun Hog movement, where everybody who wants to participate, be part of it. We have a series that's emblematic, and I'd like it all to be in the name of Yogi. Thank you.
It's not 75, Kim. 77, thank you. But I will say, every girl in the county was in love with Yogi, and this blonde, tall blonde with a camera around her neck kept coming up to the county, and none of us stood a chance. 2 sweethearts fell in love and became sweethearts. And I gotta say, before I do my little thing, I have not seen Belly the Kid since Chicken of the Sea Classic at Keystone under the last 2. Unbelievable. I don't know how many of you were here then, but yeah, we saw you under Go Devil in the last 2, Billy. Thank you for being here. God, I'm gonna cry. Damien, you had so much energy. I'm gonna try to be as much as you. In the winter of 1977, Yogi Hebron was literally the first person I met in the state of Colorado. I'd never seen snow, I'd never skied, and I was in college. I saw a flyer at the student cafeteria at the University of Missouri Ski Club that they were driving to Keystone. My dorm mates and I joined the club, but accidentally we missed the bus. It departed, so we jumped in my car. We sped towards I-70 West to catch up with the group. Somewhere around Hays, Kansas, we decided we could no longer follow this bus doing 45 miles an hour. So we passed the bus, and we only knew to stay on I-70 West, go through Denver, go through a tunnel, take a Silverthorne exit, and meet at a little gas station at the flashing light at the top of the hill in Dillon. Well, that didn't happen. As we turned off the exit in Silverthorne, we saw this huge neon red sign that said, Virgin Islands Ski Rental. and thought, wow, let's not wait for the group to rent our stuff. Let's get our skis now so we'll be ready. We drove right up to the front door, and 3 wide-eyed, giggling girls got out of a smoke-filled Datsun playing Joe Walsh at full volume. And this gorgeous Robert Redford, sweeping blonde bangs guy swung open the door and said, "Let me guess, ladies, you girls need skis. Better get in here quick because we're closing." At that very moment, the course of my life would change directions. Not because I eventually learned how to ski, but from all the avenues of kindness that Yogi would extend my way over the next decade. Yogi could have said, "Sorry, we're closed, come back later," as I'm sure he was exhausted from dealing with tourists all day. But he didn't. And that's how Yogi was. He was patient, he was kind, he was giving, and he was just a nice guy. We knew nothing about skiing, and luckily for me, my roommates were cute, we had pot, and we could flirt. Yogi was sweet to introduce us to all the guys in the shop, helping us fit our boots and skis. Glenn Greasy, Doc Watson, and others were chatting up ski stories, telling jokes, and we were all laughing and getting along great. Before we knew it, we were invited to follow the guys up to a party near Flying Dutchman condos, and then go hear a band at a place called the Snake River Saloon. I wasn't even in town 2 hours, and fate already had us hanging out with ski legends and meeting what I would come to understand much later, some of Summit County's most influential business pioneers and food and beverage entrepreneurs of those early years. It was hard to return to college after that week. I kept dreaming of what it would be like to live and work in a ski resort, and thought about all the characters I had met because of Yogi. Glenn, Doc, Saint, Lumpy, Skins, TD, Jimmy Shields, T-Bird, Phil Lacasse, and the list goes on, and many of you lovely characters are here today. I barely finished my last semester, and with no plan or savings, headed west to fill out a job application at Keystone. I'm almost done. It was impossible to pass the Virgin Islands and not go in. I was hoping Glenn or Saint somehow would be there and remember me. Glenn had gone back east, and Yogi was there that day. Now, Yogi deals with hundreds of tourists every day and locals. He's not going to remember me, but I walked in and said, "Hey, remember me?" Yogi pretended to remember me that day. And he took the time to talk to me and make me feel welcome and part of the circle. And as Glenn Greasy reminded me, that's how Yogi was. He had this amazing ability to make everyone feel like you were his best friend. Yogi helped me find a job with a guy painting his house at the time. That turned into a full-time job painting chairlifts up at A Basin. Not only did Yogi help this acquaintance find work, but also offered me a place to crash in his basement until I could save some money. Who does that to like a total acquaintance? I mean, that was Yogi. Sometimes someone like Yogi Hebron, who spent his life helping others, he trusted you, he offered opportunities looking for nothing in return. Over the years, Yogi gave me more gifts, working at the Virgin Islands Lounge, working at the Fun Hog. When Kim told me of Yogi's passing, I sent her my memory and a poem that makes me think of Yogi's gentle soul, sweet kindness, and she asked me to share it with all of you today. Leslie and Rip, I never knew you growing up, but your dad spent his dashes very well. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates of the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that the first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth. And now only knowing those who loved him know what that little dash is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about that long and hard, and there are things that you'd like to change, for you never know how much time is left, but you can still rearrange. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, which is what Yogi did. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
And we probably looked kind of cute.
Still do.
Yogi sure looked cute. And the rest is history in terms of life. We've had a beautiful life. We've done so many things together.
We've had a fantastic
A
run.
fantastic run, and we're
Still.
still doing it.
That's right.
So here's Lisa Regal.
Hello, everybody. Okay. Here we go. As Kim said, I'm Lisa Regal. Okay, I met Yogi in 1975. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. At the Last Lift Bar, which he owned, Kim and I were taking a semester off from college, and we were looking for a job. We stopped by the Last Lift. Kim saw Yogi at the bar, and she said to me and our girlfriend, "Back off, he's mine." I said the same thing. I really think it was love at first sight for both of them. We all hit it off as best lifelong friends. Traveling the world together, raising our wonderful families, Trace, Nick, Leslie, Rip, who are still very best friends. I'll never forget the wild adventures, the years on the slopes together, and Yogi's great sense of fun and humor. We all know that, right? Kim and Yogi loved each other, and Yogi loved Kim, Leslie, and Rip beyond belief. He always was so happy in his home when his family was there. It lit him up. It was amazing. I'll never forget, after Rip's wedding in 2021, we all ended up at Kim and Yogi's late at night. It was Kim, Yogi, Matt, Leslie, and Gordy and I. Yogi was absolutely on top of the world. He was so happy, and he said, "That was the funnest day of my life." And it was late. He was so happy to see both of his children grow into incredible adults, marry the love of their lives like Kim and Yogi did, buy their own lovely homes, and for Yogi to become a grandfather of beautiful little Miles. Yogi was a true gem, one of a kind. Gordy, Trace, Nick, and I will miss him dearly. Thank you.
Yogi loved Robert Service. He was the great Canadian bard of the Yukon. He also loved his home more than anybody I've ever met. He loved his home more than anywhere else on earth. I'd like to share a little poem that truly felt like him to us. The joy of little things. It's good the great green earth to roam, where sights of awe the soul inspire. But oh, it's best the coming home, the crackle of one's own hearth fire. You've hobnobbed with the solemn past. You've seen the pageantry of kings. Yet oh, how sweet to gain at last the peace and rest of little things.
Okay, I'm gonna tell a story. First of all, I met Mr. Yogi Hebron through two great friends that are not here right now. One could be, but he can't travel this far. His name is Tom Carlin. And he would love to be here, but he has a family function in Minnesota. Then there's another fellow named Rudy Thompson, who is from the Virgin Islands, that taught me how to sail, be a man, and be a good person. Well, my wife passed away in the Virgin Islands in a snorkeling accident. And he says, you got to go bury your wife. I said, well, I will. And he says, what do you need? He says, I got to go to Michigan and I got to go to Colorado to where we used to party and hang out. And that was at Hack Lake. And we lived in Vail from 74 to 77. But nonetheless, the best part is he says, I got some friends in Colorado. They're going to take care of you and they'll set you up and you go meet them. Well, I flew out. Rudy gave me my $900 for Eastern Airlines. Landed in Denver, came up to Georgetown. Eli, Yogi, and Saint picked me up in the black Lincoln town car. Does anybody remember that one? Any black Lincoln guys? It's a nice one. So they picked me up in Georgetown where the bus dropped me off at Greyhound and brought me to Summit County. Now it took 11 bars stops to get here. Okay? And they said, don't worry, we got you covered. Well, they did get me covered. I got to take off with that black town car, go bury my wife's ashes on top of a mountain that we used to hike to, and came back, and they dropped me off, and they said, here, you stay with Lars. And I go, Lars? Who's Lars? Well, this is his house. He's not here right now, but he's got a hot tub, so go have fun. Well, that's how I met Yogi, Saint, and Eli. They ended up being my partners in a charter boat business. I was the brokest yacht broker I know in the Virgin Islands for 4 or 5 years. I repossessed the trimaran for the bank. We ended up buying it, and I talked them into being my partners. Well, we picked the boat up in St. Croix, where there was this boat, and Yogi, Eli, and I and Saint hung out at the chart house and stayed late. Got up in the morning. We went to buy this boat. We walked in. Eli threw an envelope on the desk to the lawyer. He had a case of Budweiser next to him. Yogi and Saint had the same. And we were going to get the boat and sail it from St. Croix to St. Thomas. Well, we did. The lawyer says, you can't pre-make out 36 checks 33 years in advance. That's against the law. And they said, well, take it or leave it. Anyway, they took it. We got on the boat. We sailed out of where Columbus landed, Salt River in St. Croix, over to St. Thomas. And we get out there and we're doing good. Now, we had to go to the store to get supplies. Well, you know what supplies were for Yogi, Eli, and Saint? Okay, lots of everything. Okay, and a couple potato chips. Okay, so we sailed out of St. Croix at about 10:30 in the morning, 11, whenever we got there. I go, you guys, I got to be at work. I'm a waiter tonight at For the Birds. So sure enough, we go out sailing. We get out in the middle of the ocean, which is 43 miles from St. Croix to St. Thomas. And all of a sudden, we're having good. Yogi's steering because he's in the middle of the boat. He's what we call a dry dock captain. He doesn't like to get near the edge too much because we just bought the boat and he doesn't know if it works. So we're 10 miles out at sea. All of a sudden, he goes, doesn't steer anymore. We're locked up. Saint's with me. Saint. Yay. Love you, man. So Saint's there, and we're all drinking rum, and we're drinking beer. And Yogi's, I go, just steer the boat. He goes, it won't move. I go, oh, shit. And then all of a sudden, I open the engine room. There's water gushing in. The propeller shaft had slid back against the rudder, but it didn't go all the way out 10,000 feet deep in the ocean. So Yogi says, what are you going to do? I said, shit, somebody's got to go in. He says, hey, me, I'm in the captain's seat. I'm in charge. You better go check it out. So this trimaran was a Newark 46-footer. We're going across. We finally dropped the sails. 5-foot seas, 25-foot wide, 46-foot long trimaran. Yogi's drinking beer. Eli, they say, fix it. So I jump overboard. I shove it. I go, put a hose clamp on that son of a bitch. We did. Yogi, I go, you going to pull me out of the water? He goes, I'm not going out there. You know, it's 8,000 pounds deep. Anyway, that's how I met these characters. We became partners. We had a great trimaran that I told them, oh, it's only going to cost like 30, 40,000 to fix it up. It's a boat. Now, you guys all know I'm a broker. So I'm going to be honest with you right now. I sold real estate. I sell freezers to Eskimos and hot tubs to West Indians. But let me tell you this. Boat stands for bring on another 1,000. Okay? Period. So get used to it. Don't buy one. The two happiest days in your life are the day you buy it and the day you sell it. I'm going through my 23rd time of that with my boat in Kremlin. That's not at the marina. But nonetheless, we made it across. We became great partners. Yogi was my mentor, my best friend. We got to spend many an hour up at the man cave. He talked me into my house in the South 40 because I had river access and he wanted to fish. And this is as Leslie and Rip became young children. So I've known them since they were a twinkle in their eye on their Virgin Islands trip, on a charter boat, windsurfing in Christmas Cove and everything else. But his heart of gold spread to everyone. He was firm, very firm. If he didn't like it, there's no bullshit. That's what I liked about him. This is no bullshit guy. Okay? And he took me under his arms and became my honest best friend. I tell you what, we are all so lucky to have that influence upon us. And I feel blessed, and I think you are too. Cheers to Yogi Hebron, one of the greatest men in this world that brought a great family and great amount of friends together. We wouldn't be here without him. And we wouldn't be here life-wise without him. And keep that spirit going, because that's the most important. Okay, don't wait. Like Yogi said, don't say you wish you had. Do it. Be proud. Be happy and be strong. Love you guys.